you. Esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, fellow forensic scientists, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think the moderator has done a lot of justice to protocols, so I want to stand on the established protocols and proceed with the keynote address. It is an immense pleasure and honor to stand before you today at this prestigious gathering of minds dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, innovation, and progress in the field of forensic science. As we come together from across different sectors, be it academia, research, law enforcement, and so on, each of us bringing our unique experiences and expertise. We have an incredible, remarkable opportunity to collaborate, learn, and push the boundaries of what is possible in Nigeria. The work we do is not just advancing forensic science community in Nigeria, but it is changing the world around us, whether through groundbreaking research, new technological advancements, or innovative approaches to challenges. Your contributions are shaping the future. Our gathering here is a testament to the power of curiosity, dedication, and the collective drive to make a lasting impact. It is through such collaborations that we will continue to unlock the mysteries of nature, improve lives, and create a better future for generations to come. Today, I'm privileged to give the keynote on alternative locally sourced fingerprint enhancement materials. Fingerprint enhancement materials are substances used in forensic science to make latent fingerprints more visible for analysis and identification. Latent fingerprints are typically invisible. And of course, that's why we call them latent, because the person that has put it there did not really mean to put it there. It was put there inadvertently. So we want to make these fingerprints called latent, left out possibly, for instance, crime scenes, more visible for analysis and identification. The latent prints they are not visible to the naked eye, as we know, but these materials interact with the oils, sweats, and other residues left behind by the fingerprint to make the print detectable. Fingerprint enhancement methods can be applied to various surfaces, including porous, such as paper, non-porous, e.g. glass, and semi-porous materials, for instance, wood. Some types of fingerprint enhancement materials used are powders. You have magnetic powder, you have black powder, you have the so-called white coat and uncoat, because it's not black powder. You have aluminum powder, you have fluorescent powder. And of course, these powders, you know, they have their properties, their differences, and they can be applied to.
Ma'am, I would love
Hello?
to
Yes, please.
stop you a little while. People are having challenges hearing you. You might have to speak up a bit, ma'am, so we can hear you clearly. We can hear you, but not too loud. So we would love to hear you loudly, because we don't want to miss out on any
So if it's better, if it's okay, so if it's better, let me know. Is it okay now?
It's better now, yes.
Hello?
It's better now, ma'am.
Okay, so I take it back from saying that fingerprint enhancement materials, as we all know, they are substances used in forensic science to make latent fingerprints more visible for analysis and detection. So later fingerprints, they are not visible to the naked eye. That's why we want to enhance them. And so you have a lot of materials that we use in this regard. Talking about powders, you have magnetic powder, you have black powder, aluminum powder, fluorescent powder. And so I was saying before you forced me, so these powders, they have their specific properties, and they are applied to different surfaces to enhance the latent prints you want to lift. And of course, we have chemical reagents too, such as neodymium, the silver nitrate. We also use this one to enhance the latents so that they can be detectable and we can lift them. In forensic science, the development and enhancement of latent fingerprints is crucial for investigation. While traditional fingerprint enhancement techniques often rely on commercially available chemical reagents or powders, there is increasing interest in alternative locally sourced materials that are more cost-effective, environmentally friendly, or accessible to regions where commercial products may be limited. The use of alternative locally sourced fingerprint enhancement materials is important for several reasons. These materials help overcome challenges associated with traditional, commercially available enhancement materials and contribute to more effective, accessible, and sustainable forensic practices. Some key reasons why such alternatives are crucial are: 1, cost effectiveness. In many regions, especially in developing countries like ours, access to commercial fingerprint enhancement materials can be expensive or limited. Locally sourced materials such as common powders, plant-based substances, or everyday chemicals can significantly reduce the cost of forensic investigations. This makes fingerprint enhancement techniques more affordable for law enforcement agencies, particularly in regions with budget constraints, accessibility, and availability. Commercial fingerprint enhancement materials may not be readily available in certain areas, particularly in remote or rural locations. Locally sourced materials, on the other hand, are more likely to be easily available and readily available. This ensures that forensic teams in areas with limited access to specialized equipment and reagents can still perform fingerprint enhancement effectively. Environmental sustainability. Some commercially available fingerprint enhancement materials may have environmental or health risks associated with their production, disposal, or use. By relying on locally sourced materials, forensic practitioners can minimize their environmental footprints and reduce the use of toxic chemicals and materials. For example, organic or plant-based powders, such as coconut shell powder or rice powder, can serve as more environmentally friendly alternatives to commercial reagents, which may be harmful to environments when disposed. Accordingly, more alternative locally sourced fingerprint enhancement materials commonly used in forensic sciences are iodine fluid. Iodine crystals can be locally sourced in certain regions or purchased from chemical suppliers. It can be used for enhancing fingerprints. It is a classic technique for visualizing latent fingerprints, and it's simple to apply. It is relatively inexpensive and simple to perform, making it a viable option in resource-limited settings. Charcoal powder. Activated charcoal or fine powder can be obtained locally or even produced from wood burning, even though we want to curtail this because of climate change too. But then you can still make use of the charcoal powder, which can be applied to surfaces to refill fingerprints. It adjusts to the oils left in the print. It's particularly useful in porous or bright surfaces. It is inexpensive and can be used on a variety of surfaces. So it's not very limited. It can be used in several areas. Coconut shell powder can be sourced locally too, and it can be processed into fine powder. We can use coconut shell powder to enhance fingerprints. And this can be inexpensive. It can be easily accessed, and we can get it readily. The talcum powder is another one that can be used, and we have the fluorescent dyes. So these are materials that you can source locally to enhance fingerprints. The chemical that can be used to, that we can have readily available, you have our silver nitrates. Some of these we can generate in the lab and we can source them. The coffee powder or tea powder can be locally sourced and we can get powder there from. The grants, when combined with an appropriate solvent like water or alcohol, can be used to reveal fingerprints on certain surfaces. The powder, of course, adheres to the residues left behind by the fingerprint. The benefits of these materials is that they are commonly available, they are readily accessible, they are relatively inexpensive, and the techniques used are very simple to apply. Now, it is important to note that the use of alternative locally sourced fingerprint enhancement materials do not or does not necessarily compromise the integrity of forensic investigations. But it does require careful consideration of several factors to ensure that the accuracy, reliability, and validity of the evidences are maintained. In fact, when used appropriately, these materials can be very effective, if not more so, than commercial alternatives, especially in resource-limited settings. However, there are more important points to consider. Effectiveness of the material. Not all locally sourced materials are guaranteed to be as effective as commercial ones for fingerprint enhancement. So we have to be careful of this. The sources of fingerprint enhancement depends on the material's ability to interact with the fingerprint residues such as oils, sweat, salts, and so on, without damaging the print or the surface. It is an alternative material. If an alternative material does not react effectively with the fingerprint residue, it could result in poor quality or incomplete prints that may not be useful in an investigation, as it were. So the potential issue here is that if a locally sourced material does not conform to this, and it will dissolve the print as it were. So it will not give a positive result that we might be looking for. So what do? We have to make sure, we have to ensure proper validation and testing of the locally sourced materials in forensic applications. This is very crucial and essential going forward. The surface compatibility. Fingerprint enhancement methods must be compatible with the surface on which the print is located. Different materials like powders, liquid, or dyes work better on specific types of surfaces. And I guess you know this, whether it's porous, whether it's dry, so we have to be conscious of this. Some locally sourced materials might react with or damage the surface, which could alter the integrity of the evidence or make it difficult to analyze. Careful assessment of the surface material and matching it with most appropriate locally sought fingerprint enhancement material is very, very crucial. Forensic professionals should be trained to select the correct material based on the surface type and conditions of the print. Consistency and reproducibility. Commercial fingerprint enhancement materials must be rigorously tested and standardized to ensure consistent results. Locally sourced materials, however, may vary in quality and quantity, composition, and effectiveness, depending on their source. This variability can lead to inconsistent results, especially if some material is not available in some form each time you want to make use of it. So the potential issue is that inconsistent results can undermine the reliability of fingerprint enhancement process potentially leading to misidentification or failure to detect prints altogether. Locally, forensic laboratories should therefore establish protocols for using and testing locally sourced materials to ensure that their results are reproducible, they are consistent every time. This might involve developing local guidelines or creating local standards for fingerprint enhancement practices, documentation and chain of custody. The use of non-standard or alternative materials could complicate the documentation and chain of custody processes in forensic investigations. If alternative materials are used without proper documentation, there might be concerns regarding the forensic integrity of the evidence, especially during legal proceedings. For example, defense attorneys who challenge the use of environmental materials if their applications isn't well documented or if their efficacy isn't scientifically validated. So, lack of proper documentation of the materials used, or this material is not widely accepted or understood, could lead to questions about the credibility of the evidence. Thus, it is essential that forensic teams properly document the materials used in fingerprint enhancement, including details about their source, preparation, and application. This ensures transparency and upholds the integrity of the investigation. In summary, the use of alternative locally sourced fingerprint enhancement materials does not inherently compromise the integrity of forensic investigations, but it requires careful consideration and testing to ensure that it does not interfere with the quality or reliability of the evidence. As long as these materials are properly validated, used with caution, and documented appropriately, they can be just as effective and reliable, if not more, than commercial materials presently available. Let me conclude by expressing my deepest gratitude to the organizers, volunteers, and everyone who has worked tirelessly to make this event possible. And permit me at this juncture to single out Mr. Olomu, that's what I call him. He's been a fantastic being. Make sure this thing works out. Thank you. And that's not